Hi there, it's Amrita Tripathi, and I'm back with another episode in this series called Unlocking Lessons Learned with me, Amrita Tripathi. I've been saying I wanted to share as much as possible from, this sort of multi hyphenate existence that I've been privileged to sort of lead. I've also been really interested in upskilling for many years before actually upskilling was a term, if you ask me. And a quick bio for those of you who are catching up for the first time. I've set up Tap in Tribe, which is an initiative that looks at women and allies and leadership. We coalesce work around really three pillars: content, micro courses for upskilling, events and mixers for community building and peer support, as well as mentorship, for the kind of advocacy each of us needs in our careers, champions and mentors. I also set up the Health Collective 8 years ago this month, to really sort of mainstream storytelling around mental health and mental illness with an India lens. 500 stories later, and 4 books published by Simon and Schuster India, co-authored with various psychologists and psychiatrists, have certainly taught me a lot. And I've been leveraging my background as a journalist, someone who led content partnerships for Twitter in India, as well as working in this company on cross-functional initiatives with global teams, ensuring that I was a part of several ERGs, or those employee resource groups, learning as much as I could, because I did have to go through a mid-career transition. And as some of you who would have seen the imposter syndrome episode would know, that's something I had to tackle myself as well. And always be upskilling, if you ask me. I just finished, I was a member of the inaugural cohort of the Virginia Tech Leadership in Tech program this year in 2024. So all of this to say that you'll be hearing from me on various topics. I don't think I'm the person to tell you that, I'm the sort of like smartest person on the block, but I can tell you that I am interested in many issues. And I think some of these conversations resonate, some of these issues resonate with many of us. We don't all have the opportunity or the networks or the, perhaps the time to delve as deeply into these topics as we would like. But I'd love to sort of co-learn, co-share, and collaborate wherever possible. So today, I'm going to do a little bit, take a bit of a detour. I wanted to share some of the work I've been doing just to tell you why I'll be talking a little bit about leadership and competencies today. Again, having done several courses on leadership, modules, reading, research, learning on the job, reaching some level of seniority in many different organizations, I feel like I can share with you some of the notes. And I do say this because I take a ton of notes from most of my courses and whatnot. So I feel like I will just share a little bit with you, as little jargon as possible. And we'll talk a little bit about what makes a good leader, right? I'd love to know what you think. I'm a big fan of pausing the video and just, making notes on the side as well. So maybe you can start thinking about what makes a good leader. In this sort of age of ascendant AI, there's a lot of talk about human-centric leadership. So I'm going to share a few slides I've prepared for a talk. Tell me what you think. But first, let's look at what nowadays you need apart from your core skill set, of course. And I'm not a fan of this sort of hard skills and soft skills breakup. But let's say you have this core expertise, whatever industry you've chosen to be in. It could be graphic design, it could be art, it could be fine art, it could be writing, it could be communications, it could be anything. Apart from that, nowadays, to really stand out, there are certain things that you need to be good at, right? And some of these will come under the human-centric leadership framework that we talk about. Some of them seem like common sense. So I do remember this course we did on leading and managing globally, sort of with a team from Yale. You need to be good at communication. I've made this note: building trust, leading change. You need to be good at stakeholder management, and much more. Before I joined a corporate, we never spoke about stakeholder management. What is stakeholder management? It essentially is what you do every day of your life. Get along with different people in a workplace. Of course, that means working towards a common good when you may not always be on the same team, may not always have the same goals or OKRs or whatever the nomenclature you use is. But you need to be able to manage up. You need to know how to manage your manager. You need to be able to manage across your peer group, and you need to be able to manage, of course, if you're leading a team, you need to know how to manage your direct reports. So stakeholder management is critical in this age of ascendant AI, where everyone is very concerned about which are the jobs AI is going to take, who are the people with AI skills who are going to take our jobs. We need to double down on what actually we can be very good at. And these are things we can all work on. And I have a small module on public speaking and presentation, which I've done for the Tap In Tribe community. And tribe community, sort of redundant there, sorry about that. But there I do say, and in small closed groups I do say, in these contexts it's okay to fake it till you make it. When you're sort of delivering a talk, or you have an attack of the nerves, or you don't feel super confident when you're about to present, it's okay, just fake it. That confidence will come, by the way, with more and more practice, and that's the whole point of that module. But let's talk about communication, because that's a critical bedrock of everything we do nowadays. And then I'll tell you a little bit about what, again, from that same course, some of the notes I made on adaptive competencies, which is what distinguish high-performing global from regular leaders. So distinguishing yourself from regular leaders, you have these adaptive competencies, apparently they're called. So that should be the end of the jargon, I promise. The three things they talk about are perception management, relationship management, and self-management. So I'll deep dive into these a little bit, and then the rest of the video, I'm going to talk to you about what I've been learning about human-centric leadership and the skills we all need to sort of double down on. So your perception management is how you see the world around you. If you're doing this right or doing this well, you have some flexibility. You adjust to different cultural contexts, especially when you're working in a global team. But certainly in a market like India, there's so many cultural contexts to keep in mind, even locally. Do you withhold judgment? So are you able to be an empathetic person and a leader? How do you deal with the unexpected? Are you proactively curious? So these are all things to do with perception management. Relationship management, they talk about being aware of the difference in other people's styles and values. In global teams, this comes up a lot because we take a lot of sort of cultural cohesion for granted, and the sort of corporate culture is very much a Western culture. It can often be very much an American culture in many companies, if that's where your home base is. But different countries and different regions certainly have different value systems, and it can be very easy to jump to conclusions. It can be very easy to be judgmental and even racist and stereotype people. So you need to be careful about these things. You need to be also checking yourself and being aware of, what are your values? How are they impacting others? How is your behavior impacting somebody else? Are you aware of other people's styles of leadership? And put some thought into these things. So again, these are not things that are normally taught. I think these are things you learn on the job, but that's also why these kind of courses do help, because they bring it sort of front and center. This is how you can also sort of develop and manage relationships across contexts. That comes broadly under that relationship management bucket. And they can, of course, help you find opportunities because you're able to work with multiple stakeholders. They will help you simplify business systems, as we learned, help you read and interpret context, and even make decisions. Decision making, I didn't think would be such a big deal, but it really is. In a corporate setup, it is one of those skills you need to know how to just adapt to change, adapt to conflict sometimes, resolve conflict, make decisions. And it actually is a full module in sort of leadership training. And then I think there's self-management under that. You kind of look at how, if we just think about leaders we've had who have been effective versus ineffective leaders, self-management really is a huge part of that game. And some of us may not be leading teams, but it's also important for us to think through how our own sort of relationship with ourself impacts everything. The work you do, of course, your personal life as well. We're talking here about the professional. Can you keep your emotional health? The first video in this series, I was referencing that course I did on emotional agility, which comes up a lot in a day-to-day work situation, right? Because there will be challenges, there will be trauma, there will be chaos, there will be conflict. It's how you adapt and how you're able to deal with those kind of situations that can really make the difference between a sort of seasoned, mature, effective leader and somebody who's just fumbling. And remember, as a leader, everything you do and everything you say has an impact downwind, right? It has an impact on everyone in the team, and even a 360, I don't mean downwind, just down the pipeline, but it does have an impact on the health of the organization. So are you able to maintain your self-identity? Are you able to manage stress? This is a big one, and I'm pretty sure we'll have to do a separate conversation on stress and stress management and share all that we've learned on that. Because the worst thing to do in a stressful situation, and I'm sure many of us have had these leaders as well, is to add to the chaos and stress by yelling, freaking out, taking it out on other people. This is not a good leadership style. So are you able to self manage? And some of these sound very obvious, but these are all critical skills. They don't necessarily come naturally. So we do need to invest in leading and learning about these. Really, towards the end of the time that I had allotted, so I'm going to just say that empathy and human-centric leadership, it really are the sort of mot du jour. They're kind of the, I promise no jargon, I apologize. They're kind of the buzzwords right now. So I'm going to leave you with this kind of teaser for something I might come back to. If you're interested, drop me a thumbs up, or I will say no more on the subject. But human-centric leadership is something we think can be super important. It's something a lot of leaders are talking about globally right now in this age of AI. So I'm doing a couple of talks on this, reading up and learning as much as I can. I'd love to hear from you. So you can actually let me know if you want to know more about leadership. Of course, if you would like to join Tap In Tribe as a woman executive or ally, you could reach out. This is the Health Collective email, but I'm pretty easy to find on social as well. I'm going to try and continue this series with some semblance of cadence and consistency. We might take a slight detour on the topics, but tell me what you think. Feedback is a gift. Thanks so much for watching.